Unnoticed by the others, Lenaig slipped quietly into the scullery. She wrapped some bread, cheese and fruit in a cloth and took a flask of elderberry wine from the cellar, Moses' favourite. She left by the scullery door without her cloak and slowly followed the path of Moses up to blamed Cathra. She took her time, smiling at the stunted trees and the heather-tinted moorside, as she climbed the stony trail. The dogs noticed her first and came to greet her, but Moses did nothing to acknowledge her presence. This was his fell, and no one else was welcome. She sat some distance away, saying nothing, just giving him the odd sidelong glance. After a while she stared more directly at him, watching for the moment when his anger would subside, as she knew it would. The sun was low on the horizon before he stirred, giving her a faint flicker of recognition. This was her cue. "Hard, isn't it?" she said, "not knowing where you belong. I thought there was something different about that, but I didn't know that was Lady Margaret's son. Let's get that one quiet. That's a dark horse, all right." Moses laughed mockingly, but the spell was broken and the anger had dispersed. "Here, want some of this?" she said, unwrapping the food at his feet and uncorking the wine. Moses hadn't eaten since breakfast, and the hunger pangs cramped his stomach. "Have some wine first, it's your favourite," she said, pouring it into a horned cup. He drank greedily and broke off a piece of cheese. She tore off a piece of bread and fed it to him a morsel at a time, pressing the wine cup to his lips in between. It was the most sensual gesture that he had ever experienced. The heady wine increased the physicality of the moment, and he looked at her properly for the first time. Tresses of her gleaming copper hair had come loose, and he smoothed it away from her face. He noticed her eyes, really beautiful eyes betwixt blue and green, and it minded him of the colour of his mother's popinjay cloak. She had an elf-like, childish face with a light dusting of freckles, but it had that knowing look. She knew what he was thinking, only he wasn't thinking clearly at all. He wanted her then, but hesitated. "I've never been so close to you," she whispered, and looked into his eyes. She was kneeling in front of him and proffered him some more wine. His hand reached out around her yielding waist, and she let it rest there for a while, before removing it, slipping away laughingly. "Is that how you fine gentlemen behave?" she teased. There was a tense silence. Then she stared at him and recited. "When thou ran or wrestled or putted the stone, and came off the victor, my heart was not forlorn. Thy every sport manly gave pleasure to me, for none can put or wrestle or run as swift as thee." He looked at her, and noticed for the first time how her hips angled provocatively on her coltish frame as she shifted her weight from foot to foot. His ardour was aroused, and his heart was pounding. She watched him before slowly sitting down next to him, plucking at the couch grass. She plaited it into a coronet. "A crown for the Earl of Westmoreland," she said, placing it on his tawny head. He put his hands on her shoulders and pressed them gently into the grass before kissing her. A long, yearning kiss that came from his soul as much as from his loins. They made love all that night, under the starlit sky, passionately, tenderly, and often.